Hey guys, it's Sunray, and welcome back to the My So-Called Thoughts podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Sunray. I'm a wife, mama, and musician. And on this podcast, I like to pretty much talk about anything that I'm thinking about or what I feel like everyone's thinking about, what everyone is going through, what everyone is experiencing. I like to deep dive into it, talk about it, unpack it. And there are certain serious things and there are some not so serious things, but I like to talk about how we can heal from the things that we're dealing with and how we can deal from the things that we're healing with. Ooh, healing from. Oh, whatever. You get my point. But thank you for tuning in. We're in episode 5 here. If you turn to the other 4 episodes, thank you so much. If you are curious about where you can potentially listen to the podcast in other places, this is of course available on YouTube, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And I'd really appreciate it if you would go ahead and leave a comment or like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Also, if you're on the other platforms, go ahead and leave a review, and go ahead and give us a little rating or something, and leave a comment, review. Go ahead and subscribe on your platform of choice. So I like to go ahead and just dive in. I don't like to waste any time once we're getting started here. Why we will never arrive. This was a very interesting podcast that I had to think about. And it was actually hard. I'm not going to lie, because I feel like I'm like currently going through it. And I feel like when you're like currently going through something, it's a little bit harder to depict what you're thinking and what you're feeling, but then also you kind of have to be honest with yourself in the moment of like, oh, I'm going through this and this is how I feel about it, whether I'm right or wrong. Not that you're wrong in your feelings, but like, oh, maybe I should change my mindset with this and that. So, life has been very interesting for me lately in the last year and a half, and it's changed drastically for me. And I mentioned this on the last podcast, but there will be a podcast coming where I tell our story. Just a little preface. My husband and I, a year and a half ago, we picked up all of our belongings, threw everything into moving truck, and moved across the country, from Chicago in the Northwest Indiana area where we grew up and lived our entire lives. We moved to the South, and we did that all while I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, and we moved to the South for a new life. And then we had our baby boy while we were here. And again, I know you guys are probably tired of me, saying that I will share it on another podcast, but I promise I will. Again, just have to think about really what's too personal, what I would like to share about that, because obviously privacy is important to me, and privacy for my family and things of that nature. So there's some things I would love to share and be open about, but then I have to think about the other things that I'm like, wait, too much information. So I feel like there will be a time when I am ready and would like to speak about those things, and I do want to get some things off my chest as far as that. But I promise I will share that in a future podcast. But just considering the journey that my husband and I have been on, and just personally myself as an individual, I've been thinking about like having personal goals, and, there's always things that you desire, and, just things of that nature. And I feel like my whole life, I always had this notion of like, okay, or, oh, when I get there, dot, 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 or I just can't wait until that happens. And, I'm not really talking about like tangible goals like, oh, I'm graduating college, I'm excited about that, or oh, we're going to close on that house, or oh, I'm going on that vacation, or oh, I finally got the job promotion. Like, I'm not talking about like those tangible things that you're excited about, which rightfully so. We have a right to be excited about those things and other things in our lives. Not really talking about that, but I'm talking about this feeling or this desire to reach an arrival point. Waiting for like a specific time, but maybe not putting the work behind it because in your mind, you're just waiting until you get there. I'll just be happy if, dot, dot, dot. I feel like I've got my entire life with that mindset. Like, I always had my eyes on some prolonged future that was obviously in the future, and never I was paying more attention to the future and not paying enough attention to my now. And I'm just curious, like, if you're listening, like, have you experienced this? Is it just me? I was always thinking, if I could just get here or get there, and everything would be okay. But will it though? Like life can be extremely unpredictable, and I feel like if we're always putting all of our eggs into that one basket, like if everything would just be fine, if this everything would be great if that happened, we're only trying to focus on that one thing that we believe would bring us happiness, then we're gonna miss out on the now, and we miss out on what's right in front of us. And I know that this concept you may be like, well, duh, like, focus on what you're doing now and then focus on the future. No, I'm talking like, I feel like this is something that we really deal with as human beings and in society. We're always thinking about that prolonged future, but what about the now? I feel like we're taught at a very young age to have aspirations and things we want to accomplish, which is awesome. I think that we have to have goals, and this isn't like an anti-goal podcast. Like, this isn't about like not having the goals of like, hey, once I am, you know, is more established at this job, I'm going to work hard to go for that position. Not talking about that. Or, hey, once I'm this or that. I'm talking about if I'm not married by the time of 30, then I'm going to be depressed. Or if I don't have a house by 25, I don't know what I'm going to do. Or I'm talking about if I don't have a baby by the time I'm this age or that age. Or if I don't find, my husband or wife by this and that age, then we have a problem. I'm talking about that. But back to what I was saying, we're taught to have all these aspirations growing up, and I do believe that we should be learning that, and we need to have things to desire and to pursue. I think it makes us feel good as humans, and I think it's a good thing. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. But, I feel like there are factors in society and pressures from family, pressures from maybe, a religion, that cause us to have these like so-called aspirations. I remember, for myself, I was like, I want to be, this sounds crazy. I got married at 23, but I used to be like, well, I want to be married by 21. Okay, why? I don't know. But like, I wanted to just get married young. And I still did. I got married at 23. But like, why? Why do we have to have that house by this age, or have that child, or have 3 degrees by this age? You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was in high school, I was of the mindset of once I graduate high school, I'm going to do all these big things, and I'm going to be a big deal, and, all this type of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, awesome. That's great. And it's amazing that I had these goals and aspirations. There's nothing wrong with that, like I mentioned. But so much so, like, I would obsess over it, obsess over what that dream may look like that I had, or, what it might be. It was all like, well, once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I'm done with all this high school, blah, 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 then everything will be fine. I'll be complete. You ever thought of that? Once that happens, everything will be okay. With all this focus on the future, I didn't have time to pay attention to my present. And because of this, not paying attention to my present, it resulted in me not taking advantage of the time that I had. And instead, I was so focused on worrying about the future, which hadn't even happened yet. I feel like at times, again, we focus on this arrival point. And, once we get there, then this. Once we get there, then that. And I feel like it truly comes, in my opinion, from this microwave society that we live in. You throw in the popcorn, and once the popcorn's done, I'm going to eat it, right? I'll have my snack and I'll be on my way. But I've just learned that life doesn't work like that. And just because we put the popcorn in for 2 minutes, or however long 3 minutes, however long you're going to put the popcorn in, we're anticipating for it to be done at 3 minutes. All the kernels popped, ready to go, ready to eat, and I'll just be happy because I'll have my snack. Don't work like that. And I had to learn that the hard way. Going back to what I was saying, once I got to college, life hit me like a brick wall. I had to adult. And, I still live with my parents at the time, but, I was 18, almost 19, but again, legal adult. I had to apply myself in college, get a job, and all this adulting stuff. Some may say that I was in La La Land in high school, and I had my head in the clouds. But I don't think that was my problem. I believe that my problem rested in the fact that I wasn't doing my due diligence to prepare myself for the next stage of life because I was so focused on some distant future that I wasn't dealing with like reality, if that makes sense. Maybe that's just me, but that, was my experience. It's like I instead of thinking about the next thing and just getting like what was in my hand right now was that I was graduating high school and I was going to college. But instead I was focused on some distant future after college or mid college or something when I should have just been focusing on applying myself and prepping myself again for things like college and getting a job and things of that nature. Maybe I'm alone in this, but I feel like there's got to be someone out there that relates to this, on some type of level. I feel like, at times we as people, we can always, we're always looking to the future, but it's not for the right reasons. We aren't thankful for what we have right in front of us and for the now. Like I said, you may say, well, if I'm not married by 30, oh my God, problem. Well, be thankful for your singleness. It's hard because as humans, we desire to love and to be loved, and we want a significant other, and I get that. But focus on your singleness, focus on being the best you that you can be, focus on your career goals, focus on becoming financially stable, and the right person will come along, right? But if we're not, if we're only focused on the future and we're not seeing the now, even if you're going through a hard season, then we're going to miss. I'm telling you, we're going to miss out on stuff. We're going to miss out on what's right in front of us. And even if we stop to consider, we just stop for a moment to consider the now, sometimes we just brush it off and think about like if only things were different. It's like, well, right now I wish I had this house. And if I did this, maybe something would be different. I mean, personally, I just believe everything happens for a reason. My husband and I, we dated for 4.5 years before we got married. And, you know, obviously I would imagine any young woman who's in love with her best friend, knows he's the one and everything would be thrilled and excited to get married. And we were engaged, I think, for like a year and a half. Um, and, but even before we got engaged, I remember thinking like, I just can't wait to be married. Everything would be easier. At the time, I was finishing college, I was working, I was, like I said earlier, I was still living at home with my parents. And I mentioned that, I got married at 23. But I wanted so badly to be out of my parents' house and to be independent and all this stuff. And all those feelings are normal, 100% normal. There's nothing wrong with that. I was having normal college kid experiences of wanting to be independent. But I remember like being obsessed with getting to that next step when it's like right now, why don't you focus on like finishing school and applying yourself? Once I was engaged, okay, focus on planning your wedding, right? There's nothing wrong with being excited about that next stage of life because it is exciting, especially if you are getting married or you bought a house or you're pregnant or just whatever. Nothing wrong with the normal human emotions. I would, for me at that time that I'm talking about in like college, I was about to embark on a new life journey with the love of my life. Like, who wouldn't be counting down the days, right? But again, it wasn't so much about being excited about it and wanting it to happen, soon enough and counting down those days. It was about the fact that I placed all of my happiness and ambition into the next season of my life. And I just think that when you do that, like, again, you're not allowing yourself to be thankful for the now, to focus and put all your energy into the season that you are currently in. If there's anything that I could go back and change about my season of preparation for the wedding, is that I wish I enjoyed it more. And it wasn't that I wasn't happy or anything and that I didn't enjoy it, but like I became obsessed with planning the perfect wedding and everything needing to be this and that, which most, almost wives do or fiancés do. You know, we want the wedding to be perfect, and that's totally normal. But like, if I wish I would have like just to, like I was engaged for a year and a half. You know, and some may say that's a long time. Some may say that that's not a long time. But I wish I would have just chilled more, because there were things that it was like I was so stressed out about it being this and that and this and that. And I know maybe a wedding is not the best example, because it's like obviously you want those things to be, um, in check, and you want it to be an amazing wedding. But I just feel like I'm saying I could have enjoyed it more if I wasn't so focused on the aftermath. And like, okay, well, once the wedding is, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm getting married. Why not have the mindset of I'm getting married? This is awesome. I'm having fun wedding planning. It's stressful, yes, normal, but this is a great time in my life. And I'll never get this excitement about planning a wedding back. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy the excitement. It's like my husband calls it's good stress. You know what I mean? It's good stress. Be excited about it and just live in it, you know? This concept I'm trying to get at, it's this desperation and need for arrival, like getting to this specific point. And I feel like it cripples us as humans at times. And if, we could just arrive to the destination, everything would be fine. But, but hold on a second. Like, what happens when we get there? Why place all of our happiness into this single arrival point when we've got an entire life to live? Why focus on, okay, well, once the wedding is over, I could finally, or not like once the wedding is over, I could finally breathe again, but like enjoy the wedding planning, enjoy the process, and then enjoy the wedding, and then enjoy you know what I mean? Enjoy every step that you're in, even if it's stressful. And I know that that's kind of like, why would you enjoy something that's stressful? Isn't that oxymoron? But like, enjoy the time that you may not get back in with the certain thing that you're dealing with. You may be in a season of your life where things may not be picture perfect. You may be in between jobs, living situations, anything, and you may be looking forward to that next level or that next step in your life. But like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. But if there's anything I've learned, I believe that sometimes we need to take a step back and look what's right in front of us and enjoy it, even if it's hard. And what we can learn in that season as well. What we can learn about the now that we are experiencing now. But I mentioned on this podcast that I am a Christian, and I believe in the Bible. I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and the Son of God, and I've been a Christian my entire life. And maybe it's just my experience, but I feel like a lot of churches and pastors get this concept wrong, and that I'm talking about. And I'm no pastor, so don't get on me, okay? But this is just an opinion. And obviously, if you're listening and you're not a believer, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not speaking negatively about Christianity. If you're a Christian, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. And if you're not a Christian, you can obviously keep listening and maybe talk to your local church if you have questions about Christianity or anything. There's a lot of research online where you can learn more about Jesus and the Bible. But I feel like a lot of churches preach about having a calling over your life. Once you get there, everything's fantastic and dandy, unicorns, and we're about to all ride off in the sunset. But after seeing that, like, that is not something that exactly happened for me, I had to go to scripture. I had to really think about what it meant to have a calling and, this arrival point that is constantly being pushed. And what I found is, like, as believers, we truly only have one calling, and that's to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to keep his commandments. Well, I guess you could say it's two, but I feel like it's one calling with two parts. Everything else falls under these categories. I've heard so many Christians and people talk about reaching their calling like it's the end of the race. When in the Bible, the only race talked about doesn't seem to be talking about your calling to be a singer, songwriter, actress, doctor, lawyer, architect, painter. But it talks about, the race of endurance to endure the world for Jesus. And I'm paraphrasing. See Hebrews 12. Okay. I will say that's my favorite scripture. Hebrews 12, 1-2. See that. Study it on your own and actually talk to a pastor or something if you have questions. But I had to learn that. And you know what? Maybe there's something that God wants us to learn in the in between seasons. And the reason why we feel so unfulfilled when we don't arrive per se is because we're not seeing life the way that we were intended to, or the way that God intended us to. Life isn't, I don't believe life is meant to be linear. There will be highs and there will be lows. And throughout all of that, there is so much to learn, there's so much to love, and there's so much to see. And I feel like I'm going through this right now. And it's hard. There will even be times that you don't love, and there'll be stress, like I was talking about. And I know you may say, like, first world problems, stress about a wedding. But my point is, again, I just want to drill this, is that I could have enjoyed it more. I could have, like, I look back and I'm like, ugh, what a time. Why was I so stressed out? I had all the help in the world. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm getting at here. And I don't mean to go back into that tangent. Like I said before, also, I will probably share my family story in a future podcast when I feel more comfortable. But things haven't stopped for us since we picked up our lives and moved here a year and a half ago. And it's been great, but it's also been hard. And I found myself constantly saying to myself, once we make it to this, once we get here, da da da, once this happens for us. And I had to stop and check myself for a second. I had to breathe and really analyze what I was saying and really look at what, I and what, we were really going through. And, things may not be picture perfect, but I'm healthy. We're healthy. Our son is healthy. Things may not be where I want them to be, but I have everything that I need. Things may not have unfolded in the manner, in which I thought that they would, but I'm okay. We're okay. I'm alive. I have a roof over my head. I have an amazing family. I have food in the fridge. This is a lot more than what a lot of people in this world could ever have or ask for. And that's the reality. And, I'm sitting here looking at God like, when is he going to change this? Or when is he going to provide for this and that? And when is he going to open this door, that door? And I think God just laughs at us, I feel like, everyone has probably heard the saying, we make plans and God laughs. The truth is that there is something to learn in this season, in every season. Life is full of seasons, not arrival points. We will never arrive, quote unquote. And we will never reach a point of ultimate happiness and ultimate fulfillment to where we don't need anything else. And we don't need to learn anything else. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying that like, oh, we're always going to want something, we're always going to need something, because obviously, if you are, again, healthy, have a roof over your head, like you have what you need. But I mean, like, we'll never reach this point where we're not always either striving to be better or striving for change or striving for different things. And that's why it keeps happening, why we always end up striving for these so-called arrival points, and why we're always left unfulfilled with the previous one and we're always wanting more. Is because that is our nature as humans. So why put all the pressure on these so-called arrival points if we're just going to want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing? You know what I mean? Like, can we just be happy with what we have right now, and that's enough right now? We could have our goals and our aspirations of what and tangible things of what we want to do, but can we just be at least thankful for the season that we're in and actually enjoy it for what it is? And if you are a believer, like, can we just be happy that God gave us breath in our lungs? Can that be enough for you today? And, wherever you think you're supposed to be, maybe you will be there, but maybe it's not in the timing that you want, especially if you're not the one who's in control. All of these things have been a really hard pill for me to swallow, and I'm still trying to digest it, to be honest. It's like taking a pill without a drink, which I know people in the world do that. I don't know how you do that. It's just weird. But, my whole life, all I did was look to the future. All it was like, my eyes were on was what was ahead and far ahead, not even the next step. And it wouldn't let me see what was right in front of me. I didn't let myself. And again, don't get me wrong, like I was happy, so I'm not saying I was just miserable all the time looking to the future, blah blah blah. No. But what I mean is that there are moments in life where I wish I would have just enjoyed that season more and for what it was, and understood that it was just a season, and just enjoy the season that we're in. Like it's summer right now, at least in America, and in a lot of parts of the world it's summer. And a lot of us maybe, oh, here we go. I got one for you. So in I'm from Chicago. So and in Chicago it gets cold, right? And we experience all the seasons, and sometimes it's snowing all the way until when it should be summer. It'll be May outside, and we're experiencing the second, third, fourth, fifth winter, right? And it'll be summer and it'll be hot, and then we'll be sitting there complaining about how hot it is. And then when it's snowing outside, we'll be complaining about how it's too much snow, right? That's what I'm talking about. We all go through seasons in life, and the highs and the lows, like I said earlier. But I feel like there is something to learn in every season. Even if, you're listening to this and you're like, and you don't believe in God, there is something to take in and appreciate, even if it's something like super small that you would normally consider insignificant. Like if you're in a season of your life where maybe you move to a new town and you're by yourself and you're trying to start over, enjoy the time that you have to yourself. Enjoy that time where you can focus on growing yourself as you reach out and branch out and make new relationships. Maybe you're in a season where you started this new career and, you had to make some family changes. Well, just be thankful for that new step and take it in stride, as long as everything's okay. And I know that, of course, there are really hard times that we can face where there are catastrophic life circumstances that happen. And I'm not really speaking about that stuff. There are times where we experience extreme pain, extreme loss. And I don't like this whole concept I'm talking about does not apply to that. I want to make that very clear. I mean, unless you wanted to, but that's not really what I'm speaking about. In this microwave society that we live in, I think that we need to realize that no matter who you are or where you are in life, we will never arrive. And we will never have that complete feeling in our hearts where we need nothing else. We need to start thinking life as a river. Rivers flow and flow, some faster than others, and some go to different places. Some are deep in certain points, some are not. But we keep going. It's an interesting analogy, but I think it works. And going back to you for believer, I just think that the reason why we're always searching and searching for something is because, we'll never be fulfilled until we become like him. And while we're on this earth, we just have to endure and be thankful and keep moving forward. But we're always going to want more because we're meant for more, even though it's not time for that yet. You may not have the job that you want. You may not have the house that you want. You may not be hitting your fitness goal. You may be working on your mental health. There may be a lot of stuff that you're facing, not the catastrophic life events, but you're living. And you may just be getting by, but you're getting by. You may not be exactly where you want to be, but there's something to learn where you are. And maybe that needs to just be the focus. Maybe you're in a season where you're learning what to do or not to do for the next season or the next season. I think we need to do a better job of appreciating the little things that we have. The 10 extra minutes we get to snuggle our kids at night. The fresh air outside that we get to breathe in your apartment complex, even though you wish you had a house. The quietness of the walk you get when you go on a walk with your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, as you guys try to navigate through life and try to plan a future for yourselves. When me and my husband, when we first got married, we lived in this tiny 1-bedroom apartment. It was less than 700 square feet. It was a nice neighborhood though, and it was nice. It was what we could afford, and we were just starting off, so we weren't looking for like anything too crazy. It wasn't like super duper modern, but it was nice. Yeah, we didn't live together, before we got married. It was simple, but it was cozy. And trust me, I decorated that place, to make it feel cozy. And it was. We had our careers, and it was simple. And I remember he would tell me, and he still brings this up to me. He brought it up to me last week. And he's going to be bringing it up for the rest of our lives. And he would say, Ray, we need to and he said this to me like back then when we first got married. He'd say, Ray, we need to appreciate this season that we're in. We need to appreciate this little apartment. I know we don't have everything together. I know you want a house. I know not everything is perfect, and we're not super duper rich. But we will look back on this day when we have kids, when we have a mortgage, and we're busy. Let's enjoy this. And he was so right. And it's not that I wasn't enjoying life. I just remember I'd be stressed out about dumb stuff, like at work and different things. And I'd be like, oh, I don't want an apartment. I want a house. And, all this type of stuff, which is normal feelings. But again, I could have enjoyed that season more. Stupid little things that truly just didn't deserve my energy and my mental space. And fast forward to now, we live in a whole different state and we're busy and we have our son. And then I look back, I'm like, oh my goodness. And of course, I enjoyed every moment with my husband. So don't get it twisted. Don't say, it's not that I didn't enjoy my time with him. My point is that I remember wanting all these future things, like starting a family and a house and stuff. But it's like, I have to take it in and remember when things were simpler. And we'll always have that in life where there is a simpler time. And it's just like, you just have to enjoy it for what it is. It's like how you always see, and I think I brought this up, in my previous podcast, The Millennial Curse, how everyone is so nostalgic and we look back at that time where it was simpler. Like, did we appreciate it? Or were we just in a hurry to grow up and become adults? I was so worried, like I said, about not having the house, not having, not being super rich or, this and that. When in reality, I should have just been thankful. And I was, you know what I'm saying? But I was constantly, on Zillow and like, oh, we got to find a house. We got to do this. We got to do that, I should have just been thankful. We got this cute little apartment. It's just us. I had an amazing husband. I was a newlywed. I had everything that I needed, And, like I said before, life is not linear. I don't think we're meant to make it or arrive. And if we did, what would be the point of continuing on? Life's ups and downs are meant to sharpen us and to grow us and to teach us. Look at some of the biggest celebrities in the world who we know are like billionaires. And they're still trying to be billionaires by doing business and different things. It's because it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how big your family is. It doesn't matter how big your house is. You will always want more because we are meant for more outside of this life on earth. And that, that's just my belief, that we're meant for more. But while we're here, it doesn't mean you can't go after those goals and start your businesses and do those different things. But be thankful in each season. Be thankful for what you have and then go to the next season and then the next season. And sometimes life is hard, but we just have to take it for what it is. And just be grateful, even if we don't have much. And, again, considering the aspect of a believer, even if you're not a believer, I feel like in life, we have multiple callings in each season. Like I said, this is just my personal opinion, but I feel like a lot of these new churches get it wrong. It's like you just got to get to your calling. You got to get to your calling. Okay, so what happens after that? Let's say you get to your calling at age 20. Are you done then? Is God done using you? Is God done teaching you? You know what I mean? And I know if you're a believer, and I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't mean to rant on this, but I just want to talk about it a little bit because it's something that I really struggled with. I felt like my calling was this one thing, and if I didn't get there, then there was something wrong with me. right? And I know I talked about like the simple life aspect, but I think talking about this is important too. If you feel like you're called to something and you just have to get to that one thing that you're called to, okay, so then again, what happens after that? I don't think it's biblical, and I don't think that that's how God works. I said it earlier and I'm saying it again. You know, what we really should be thinking about is, what are we called to do in the season that we're in? When I first got married and I had that tiny apartment, you know what my calling was? To learn how to be a good wife to my husband and to work hard at my job. And that's what I did. You know? And right now, what's my calling now? I'm learning still how to be a mom. You know, learning this new state that we're in. Sometimes it comes down to things that sound minuscule, like that. You know, what's right in front of you? What should you be focusing on at this time? Maybe your calling right now is to focus on the new job you just got, or to focus on healing from postpartum, or, you know, focus on applying to college. Well, I know it's fall, so well, let's say you're going for spring semester, because I'm like, people already started for college, but you know what I mean? You'll get to where you need to be as long as you keep your head up and you stay positive and you keep moving forward. You will get there, and we will get there. It's so hard to think about that concept when you're worrying about what's next. Maybe we shouldn't worry about what's next so much. What's next will come. It will be here when it gets here. The Bible talks about that, but again, I'm not going to dive into that. You go read your word on your own. I want to love the now. I want to appreciate the now. I want to be thankful for the now. And I challenge you to do the same thing. I challenge you to consider these things. Think about what's right in front of you. What do you have right now? Think about how you can love what you have and how you could steward whatever that is. You know, again, going back into, you know, if you are a believer, how can God bless you and trust you with the next season if you will not honor and be thankful for what you have and for the season that you're in? You know what I mean? We go from glory to glory. That's what the Bible says. You know, if you never had anything else in your life, would you be happy? If all you ever had was this, if all you ever had was a decent paying job, your family, a decent-ish house, and you know, your bills are paid, food in the fridge, would that be okay? You know, now again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't consider to strive to be the best versions of ourselves and go to new levels. This isn't that conversation. You know, we should always be striving better for ourselves and for our family. But if you only had what you had now, your 2-bedroom apartment, your iPhone 10, your 2015 Honda Civic, but you were healthy and have food in the fridge, could you live a healthy life? Would you be okay? And by healthy life, I mean just like mentally. Like, could you live a mentally healthy life? I think that it's more so about being thankful for what you have in the season that you have. Learn everything that you need to learn. Be happy and thankful until you get to that next season. And I feel like if we saw life this way, we would truly be happier. We wouldn't be worrying about what others had. We wouldn't worry about what they have and we don't, you know. Because what happens when you get to that next season? Again, you're going to be unhappy with it again, right? You know, like, oh, I have my house, but now it's not big enough. Oh, I got the car I want, but it's not cool enough. I need that newer model. You see what I mean? We will never arrive because we're always left wanting more, and we're always left wanting what we don't have. So if we stop focusing on these arrival points and just understand that, again, life is not linear and that it's a roller coaster, it's a river, it's whatever analogy you want to put to it, then we can just be grateful. And then whenever we get that new thing, we're in that next season, we could be grateful again. And we can focus on what to learn, what to grow from, how to change, how to better ourselves. It's about changing your view of life. You know, like I said before, this is something I'm working on, and this is something that has been a hard pill for me to swallow. This is something that has been difficult for me, but I'm really working on it, and I'm striving to be thankful for the now. Happy with what I have, and what's next will come. And I'll be thankful for that next season when it comes. You know, just to like give you a minor personal example, my baby boy, he still sometimes doesn't sleep through the night just because of teething and development and different things, which is totally normal, even though he's almost 1 year old. If you're not a mom or you are a mom and you hear that, that is actually very normal. Very, very normal. It's very normal for babies not to sleep, you know, through the night all the way up until almost like 2 years old, just because they're growing so much and they're getting teeth and all type of stuff, and it makes, you know, sleep difficult. But so, sometimes me and my husband don't get the best sleep, right? And sometimes it's hard because, not getting sleep, can totally affect your mental and physical being. And I've had some really tough times, just where I'm just exhausted, right? I could easily, and I have. I've been like, man, I can't wait till he just sleeps through the night and I can rest, which is normal. I know if you're a mom and you're listening to this, you're like, amen, sister. But then I think about when my baby boy is 15 years old and in high school, and he doesn't want to cuddle with me anymore. He doesn't want me to hold him. He's too big for that. And I think about that, and I'm like, he's only going to be this little. I mean, heck, he's barely little now, and he's almost 1, right? And I'm like, you know what? This is hard. It is. But there will come a day, and that day will be here sooner rather than later, where he's going to be older, and he's going to get married one day, and he is not going to want to come cuddle with mommy. And I just want to be thankful for my little baby boy, and that he wants to come cuddle with mama. That's what I'm talking about, is understanding that this is a season, and there will be a time where this is not happening anymore. And I'm okay with that. But let me enjoy it while it's here, Being thankful for the now. Not focusing on if I'm going to arrive to that point. Be thankful for the next season when it comes. Life doesn't have to be so complicated, and we complicate it. If we strip everything down and realize how simple things can be, we slow things down. I think that instead of happiness, we can have joy. We can have joy in every season, have joy in everything that we're going through, have joy in everything that we're experiencing. I think that is something that I'm striving towards, to have joy, because happiness is conditional and doesn't last, but joy can last. Joy could last forever, I guess, if you want to say. But just to wrap up, if you're listening to this and if this resonates with you in any way, just know that whatever you're going through, everything has a time stamp on it, everything. And while you may not be where you want to be now, there will come a day when you are there. And just be thankful that that day will come, and that things always have the potential to get better. But just keep striving, work hard, and do what you got to do. I know it's easier said than done, trust me. Like I said, this is a hard pill to swallow. It's one of those big, nasty pills. And if you're a mama, and you've taken prenatals, it's one of those big, nasty prenatals that are, is big, almost as big as your pinky. Be thankful for the now. And I think if we could just all change our mindset and not focus on the arrival points, but understand that life comes in seasons, ebbs and flows, then we can live a happier life. But if you made it to the end of the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. This is definitely an episode where I enjoyed talking about it. And, just FYI, there are going to definitely be episodes where I talk about my faith a lot. And this is definitely one of them. I just feel like I couldn't gloss over that portion. But if you're not a believer and you do have questions about faith, there are definitely a lot of resources out there to look into. You go to checking out your local church, talking to a local pastor. I recommend that because sometimes you go online and it's a little cray out there. But thank you again for tuning in. Once again, podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe on your platform of choice. And of course, leave a review, a comment. If you have any thoughts about this, I'm really curious and I would really love to hear what everyone thinks about this. You can comment on the Instagram page, which I believe I mentioned before, but we got an Instagram page. Go ahead and follow. It is at My So-Called Thoughts Pod. So instead of podcast, it's at My So-Called Thoughts Pod. But thank you again for tuning in. I hope that wherever you are in your life or whatever you're doing, that you are thriving. And even if you don't feel like you're thriving, then I hope and pray that you are on the journey there and that whatever season you're in, that you will continue to make it through. Once again, this is Sunray, and I'm out. Peace.